Nice. Anything? No, yeah.
What did she charge you for that?
It was a lot of money.
How much?
That's what I'm saying. This is a career option. It was $200 an hour for an hour.
Deduct on your taxes?
I haven't yet because it was this year, but I will next year. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, and I asked her about, like, I mean, the one thing...
How did you find her?
She was actually interviewed in The Believer. This is my phone book for all psychic. This is what I go to. I'm like, I need a philosopher. Let's see. Yeah, she was interviewed in The Believer. Do you remember that? It was her. And you know what was so crazy? So at the day
that whole thing.
That whole thing was crazy. But then, well, she was a social worker. So she had a social worker. You could tell she was using those skills, you know, in a good way. And but she really had made it. Oh my God, she was leaving the next day. She was flying out. She was flying to South by Southwest because she was going to do readings for all the musicians before they went on stage for Vice magazine. It was all going to be like videotaped and it's going to be on their website. So yeah, but that's where I found her. There's a lot of this really is. This is just sort of like a psychic resource. This magazine. Yeah.
So, is anyone talking psychic attack on the cheerleaders?
Oh, you mean the ones in upstate? Well, it's so funny. Well, as you can imagine, both Ben, who is my husband, I don't need to tell you, you guys know, you were at the wedding. Everyone's been forwarding him and I that link. They're just like, this is so, you know, and there's a way that I haven't really been following it because it makes me feel pathetically too well known or something, you know. But I think there's it seems, yeah, I don't know. It seems sort of like hysteria, contagious hysteria. I don't know, or maybe they're really sick. You know, these teenagers in upstate New York. All of them are suddenly really sick, and some people are trying to ascribe it to chemicals in the water or whatever. Some people are actually looking for some kind of valid medical diagnosis, and then other people are just like they are. Yeah, they're hysterical. It's just Salem witch trials all over again, you know? Yeah, without the burning. Yes?
What is the connection with plastic surgery?
Oh, I mean, just that I've had a lot, and I felt like I wanted to write about that experience. Yeah, I mean, here's been my sort of answer. I became really sort of obsessed with faces recently. I mean, I've had one my whole life. But somehow I just never, I don't know, I had this really weird, maybe this is, we're all mostly the same age now in this room. I don't know, I had this moment when I was like, I guess I turned 40 or something, and I looked in the face and I was like, there you are. That's my face. And it just, I'd never really, like my face had really never felt like my face before. And
It came in, huh?
it finally came in. It grew in. That's exactly right. It grew in. And so, and you know, and obviously plastic surgery in the book is used. There are these people called surgical impersonators, and so they have their faces changed to look like the faces of people who have died. So then they go and sort of offer themselves up to these grieving families as these substitutes for the people who have killed themselves. That is in this book, yes. So, and I was sort of interested in that as both like a really selfless thing to do. I mean, in a certain way, you're essentially just erasing your identity to become somebody else for these grieving people, and then of course it's like a totally fucked up thing to do, right? At the same time. So yeah.
So I read this book in spite of the psychic trappings instead of because of it. And it seems that, like myself, you're not exactly a true believer. I'm wondering, I mean, I was interested in the sort of mother-daughter dramas and the female relationships, and that's what attracted me to this novel. What made you decide to tell those stories against this backdrop?
That's a really good question. Because I can't tell those stories if I don't have some kind of like skewed lens to look at them through. Somehow when I try to do kind of on-the-nose grief or on-the-nose mother-daughter stuff, I feel like it needs to, for me, I can't really see it in any way that interests me unless I have this kind of other lens that kind of skews it. So it's all very familiar territory, but then that defamiliarizes it a little bit. And I also think what that psychic choice did for me is I really wanted to, with this book, be a little bit more emotionally, I don't know, real or something. I don't know. I felt like it was, yeah, that was kind of a goal of mine. And so by choosing this psychic conceit, unless you really ground it in something emotionally resonant, it's just going to seem silly, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
in a way, by choosing that, it really forced me to have to counteract the potential ridiculousness of it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't you into psychics? You're not?
No, really not.
That's so interesting.
So not a native San Franciscan.
I was going to say, I thought I was going to find so many friends here. I think a psychic came to my Seattle. It was so funny. Here, I know everybody. I gave a reading in Seattle last night. I did not know one person there, not one. And there was a woman in the front row who was wearing like an orange tracksuit. And I suddenly got very self-conscious because I was pretty sure she was a psychic and I didn't want to offend her. And she was smiling at me in that way that I think she meant me harm. You know? She was.
You just need a week.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I would not actually say that I'm not a believer entirely. I'm kind of I'm open to it. I mean, when I went to go see this other psychic, I was super open. I was like, show me your stuff. You know, I'm willing to go with you if you tell me some really remarkable things. I'm willing to be impressed. I'm willing to believe that you have access to other things. And, you know, and I think for all of us, uncanny things have happened. I mean, there's that great essay that Freud wrote called The Uncanny, right? And he talks about how he's like, you know, I don't believe in this stuff. I don't. However, how can you explain, you know, you're walking down a street that you've never been down before and you suddenly are pretty sure you've been there. And, you know, he's like, I'm not the guy to talk about this because this isn't really my bag. But there are people out there who can explain this, you know, and there is a way that this book is pretty highly autobiographical because I actually I turn street lamps off when I walk on the road. And I think I might have some sort of bad or weird electrical energy. So don't let me near your computers or, you know, yeah. I actually think I made my husband sick. I'm not even joking. I'm not joking. He came down with this really weird neurological disorder last spring, and I was like, oh my God, I zapped his nerves.
No.
I'm serious. Living with me has made him sick. Yeah.
Well, I have a question.
So yeah, you know, I feel open. I feel open to weirdness, you know. At the same time that I just can't turn off the skeptic either, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of a fun place to be. Just be on that skeptic believer fence. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did
Anyways.
you do any research about Lily Dale?
No, I didn't. But is she your bag?
No, it's not a she, it's a where.
Oh.
It's the
Oh, no.
town. in-
That's actually, somebody wrote, Adrian Van Young wrote a really big piece in The Believer about Lily Dale and all the spiritual activity and those girls, whatever I mean, I edited this piece actually quite thoroughly and I can't remember nothing about it. But there were the girls, you know what I'm talking about? There were the two girls and there were some sisters and they sort of started it all off.
Oh, yeah, those.
The sisters. What are they called?
Fox.
The Fox sisters, thank you. The Fox sisters, see? Yes. But I've never been there. Have you been there?
No. But I read about it.
Where is it?
Upstate New York.
It's like a psychic community.
Yeah. Is it still?
Like a planned community? Like some
Yeah.
Florida?
Now it's a retirement community.
Yeah.
Where it's the, yeah.
It's more like a
Catskills,
place in
like a
Vermont where all the
cult.
potters are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, no, people, and I think a lot of, well, like Margaret Fuller went there. It was sort of this, like the Transcendentalists went there and then they caught some suffragettes they came into. It was sort of the place to be. Yeah. No, there's a really great article that was in the, right? Adrian Van Young, I recommend it. Anyways. All right, you guys, thanks for coming. Thank you for coming.